Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. You might be thinking to yourself, Morgan, have you been doing anything exciting for the last 2 months when you haven't been posting videos? And the answer is no. I have been working and going to work for many hours every day. And I posted my TBR for the Asian Readathon in May, and I did not read a single book in May after posting that video. And I also did not read a single book in June, like the entirety of June. I think I read once the entire month. And then for some reason, it was the last day of it was the first day of July, and I was just like, am I in the mood to read? And I just started devouring ebooks that I had bought on my Kindle. So I have read, I think now 9 books this month, and it's the 15th today, so feeling good. Also, you might be wondering, why am I wearing a sweatshirt with these big fancy earrings? And the answer is I got these earrings in the mail today. I bought them for myself a couple weeks ago, and I'm treating myself to feeling fancy while wearing garbage. And that's just how it's gonna be. And we're both going to love it for me, okay? The reason I'm making this video is because I want to make I've made the mid-year book freakout tag the last 2 years, and I feel like even if I post videos less often, which going forward I'm going to be posting less often. I'll talk about that later or in a different video, I don't know. But if I post more infrequently, I still want to make these videos that I've been making every year just as a way to track throughout the years my reading and how I've been feeling in the middle of the year. Actually, I'll just say this now, I guess, since I don't know if I'm going to make another video talking about my goals for the year. I do miss making videos for BookTube, I do, but I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to come up with 2 good ideas every week, and I am just not that creative. I envy the people who are like, yeah, I have 600 ideas for BookTube videos, the problem is just finding the time to read the books, and I'm like, I can barely get it together to make 2 videos a week, and one of them's a vlog. So it's so I'm thinking going forward, it's going to be 1 video a week. I've said that before, but it's always been 2 videos a week if I can, 1 is okay, and then I really put pressure on myself to get to 2, but it's going to be going forward just 1 video a week. That's the goal. That's what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? So feel good about that. We'll see if I stick to it. Who knows? Because reading is for fun, not for content. And that is my perspective going forward. Reading is for fun, not for content. I have been reading, and this is going to be a tag talking about the books I've read so far this year. And I have some good ones. I have some not as good ones, but this is generally just going to be that. So I have my answers written here, and I have my laptop open with the questions right next to me, so let's get started. Question number 1 is, what is your favorite book that you've read so far this year? And for me, far and away, absolutely far and away, that is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is also the first book, number 1, the very first book I read this year, and I'm still obsessed with it. I still think about it all the time, and I love it so much. This is, if you don't know, this is often pitched as lesbian necromancers in space, and then people will be like, and that's all you need to know. I strongly disagree with that. I feel like that gives a really wrong impression of what this is. I feel like that makes this sound like a romance, like a rompy romance. This is not a romance. They are necromancers, they are in space, and they are lesbians, but it's not a romance. This is a weird sci-fi horror murder mystery about Gideon Nab, who is a bro. I love her so much, and she gets the chance to go with Harrow, the princess of the planet where she grew up, as kind of an indentured servant. And if she goes with her to this other planet, she has a chance to gain her freedom and independence, but it ends up turning into a murder mystery within this house, and this book is incredible. I love it so much. Question number 2 is, what's your favorite sequel you've read so far this year? And that is going to be Harrow the Ninth. I love this book as well. I don't love it as much as Gideon the Ninth. I gave that 5 stars. I give this 4.5 stars. And I will say that this, I think, is the only sequel I've read this year that was actually a sequel in a series and not a companion sequel. Let me double check my spreadsheet. Hold on. Yes, every other sequel I've read this year was for a companion series and not actually a series. I have read the first books of series this year, but this is the only sequel that I've read, and it is therefore by default my favorite, but it would also be my favorite anyway. So yeah, I cannot wait for the third book. I can't wait. I believe I have to wait another year for it. That's gonna kill me, but it'll be worth it. Question number 3 is new releases that you haven't read yet but you really want to, and I have 2 here in my hands. Oh, I fucked up the spines already. It's because they're all in messy piles on my counter. That makes me so sad. Anyway, I have 2 here in my hands that I own that I want to read and want to tell you about, and then I have one more that I will mention, I guess. First off is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is Casey McQuiston's sophomore novel. I guess 2 years ago, they came out with Red, White, and Royal Blue, which rocked my world when I read it last January. And I'm really excited to read this. This is sapphic. It's about women falling in love in New York. And I think her name is August. She falls in love with like a hot butch lesbian on the subway, and it turns out that the lesbian on the subway is like stuck out of time from the 70s. I'm very much looking forward to it. I have heard, however, that the first like sex scene in this book isn't until like the 200s, like page 200, which is like fully halfway through the book. So I'm like, ugh, to get through all of that to get there, but I'm much anticipating it. And then one that I wasn't like, it was on my radar as something I wanted to read, but I got it as part of my Ripped Bodice Romance Read Repeat book box that I was getting for the first half of the year, and that is the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. And I had known about it and I had seen the cover and I was like, oh, looks really pretty. And then I read the synopsis and I was like, I cannot wait to read that. And it is about a thief named Cecilia Bassingthwaite, and she is a member of the Wisteria Society crime sorority, and then someone else, Ned Lightbourne, is a sometimes assassin who is set on assignment to kill her, but they fall in love. And I've heard there's magic and pirates, and the sequel to this is like about witches, and I am so excited. Oh my god, I want to read this so bad. And then the other one that I wanted to, I like have a 2021 releases shelf on Goodreads where I keep all of them, and I was looking through it, and the other one that I wanted to mention here is Star Eater by Kerstin Hall. This, first of all, has an incredible cover. I'm obsessed. But it's also, I think, going to be the kind of like historically inspired fantasy that I'm really into. I think the pitch for this is like cannibal nuns, and it's like kind of like a religious culty thing. I am not Catholic or Christian in any way, but I enjoy very much so stories that kind of explore the darker sides of that. For example, I love possession or demon or ghost haunting horror movies. Like a haunted house or some sort of like possession is like my favorite type of horror movie or type of horror story. So I think like this might explore similar themes. I'm just very excited. Another one that I think is a possession story that I didn't know was a possession story until Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany mentioned it in her review, which she didn't like love this book because of that, but that's something that makes me want to read it more, and that's The Taking of, I think it's The Taking of Jake Livingston. I'm gonna put the cover up so you'll see, but I'm very excited for that one as well. Up next is your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, and I'm trying not to repeat myself. So if I'm talking about books that you're like, you're not talking about your most anticipated for like anticipated releases from the other videos you've made about that, I'm trying not to repeat myself so much, so I will link to those videos in the description box and up above so you can see other books I'm excited about or that I've probably already read. There's a few that I've already read. I'm like keeping up pretty well on that. But 2 that I'm really excited for the second half of the year is especially The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. This is the sequel to The Thursday Murder Club, which I read earlier this year and adored. And I literally have no idea what this is about. I don't want to know what it's about, but I'm very into it. I'm so excited. It's beautiful. It's so like simple cover wise, but I love the design of this, and I loved the design of The Thursday Murder Club too, so I don't know, I'm very excited. And then the other one that I'm extremely excited about is A Marvelous Light by, what's her name? Freya Marske, or Marske, and this is another historical fantasy, but this is like definitely historical fantasy. I'm not sure about Star Eater, but this is definitely historical fantasy, and it's about there's magic and it's gay. So like what else do I need? And it has a beautiful cover. Come on, look at it. Look at it. Number 5 is your biggest disappointment for the year, and for that one I'm unfortunately going to have to say The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. It just like didn't do what I needed it to do. So this story is in 2 timelines. In the past, I think it's like Victorian era, there is a woman who's an apothecary, but she really just gives poisons to women so that they can kill the abusive men in their lives. And then like something goes wrong. And then in the present day, there is a woman who is on vacation visiting London kind of after a large upset in her life, and she kind of discovers the trail of breadcrumbs that leads her to learning about this apothecary in the past. And I thought it would be more of a mystery. Like, it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery at all, really. Like, the mysterious or investigative parts are all in the present day when the character in modern times is learning about the apothecary or trying to figure out about the apothecary in the past. But it's not a mystery because you are also in the past and you see what happens. Like, you are actively seeing what happens. It's not mysterious. And there's not really like, there's like one plot twist at the end where I'm like, okay, but it's not like, it's not doing what I needed it to do. But yeah, that was unfortunate. I didn't love it. I really sped up that audiobook to get to the end. Not for me, unfortunately. But I'm glad other people are enjoying it. But no comment on their enjoyment. Number 6 is Biggest Surprise, and for this I have 2. First, The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I mentioned it earlier because its sequel is coming out later this year, and this was a surprise because I knew that I would like it because I like mysteries, and I especially like cozy mysteries, I guess it would be, and this definitely has a lot of elements of that, but it's so good. But also because I literally never heard of it until I was watching a book break video because I follow Emma from Drinking by My Shelf. I love her, and I follow Book Break as well. And they did like a quiz, and they were like, what was the best-selling book in 2020 in the UK or whatever? And it was The Thursday Murder Club, and I was like, the number one most popular book was a book I've literally never heard of. And so I tried it out and I fell in love. I thought it was so funny, so heartwarming. Like, you love the kooky cast of characters, and I just can't wait for the second one. And then the other surprise is going to be Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, just because I had seen such mixed reviews for it. I feel like I love Gothic horror, Gothic stories, Gothic characters, Gothic settings, so I had a feeling that I would like it, but I didn't know that I would like it as much as I did. And I really enjoyed it. I thought the Gothic elements were so well done and very, very like Gothic. It wasn't just an inspiration, it was built into the foundation of like the story building and the writing, and it was just so good, and it made me want to read more from that author, which I'd never read any of her books before. So I have an arc for, I think she comes out with literally 4 books a year. I don't know, because she has Velvet Was the Night coming out, and then also Certain Dark Things, and I'm not sure if one of them is a new release and one of them is a paperback release, but either way, there's like another one coming out, and I don't know how she does it, but I'm going to read more. I'm very excited. Number 7 is a new favorite author, either a debut or new for you, and for me that's going to be Yoon Lee, who wrote Phoenix Extravagant here, as well as Beyond the Dragon's Gate or Beyond the Dragon's Door. I'll put the picture up here, but that is a short story I actually read from him earlier this year, and I really am into his vibe. Like, I loved Beyond the Dragon's Door. What is it? It's Beyond the Dragon's Gate. So I loved Beyond the Dragon's Gate. It's super short. It's like 25 pages, and it really it's all sci-fi, and it explores kind of what can transness look like when there is like artificial intelligence that is truly intelligent and independent, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic in terms of like the writing and the humor as well as the story, but then I was like at the library and I was like, I want to read more from this author, and this cover is gorgeous. And while I gave this book a 3, it wasn't like incredible for me. It was well written and interesting, and I love the ideas, and so much was like on the positive side that like I am going to be reading more from this author 100%. I can't wait to read. I think, was it Foxhole Gambit is like his big series, and then I think it's The Dragon's Pearl is his middle grade like Rick Riordan Presents book. Either way, I'm ecstatic to have discovered a sci-fi author that I think I'm gonna really vibe with thematically and writing style wise, because I am very interested in sci-fi, but I tend to struggle with it unless it like has certain elements tonally. Like if it's too serious, I really struggle. So I'm, yeah, so happy. Question number 8 and question number 9 have the same answer for me, so I'm going to just do it once. And 8 is new fictional crush and 9 is new favorite character, and for both of them that's going to be Gideon Nav, my big, strong, buff, butch girlfriend. I love her. You don't understand. You don't understand. I love her. I love her so much. I made my friend Gav read these books. I don't know if they finished Harrow the Ninth yet, but I made them read Gideon the Ninth, and like, they loved it. I knew they would love it, and then we FaceTimed afterwards and talked about it, and then I literally just spent the next like week sending them fan art of Gideon, and I love her. I'm obsessed with her. She's so funny and stupid. Oh my god. She's a dreamboat. She's a dreamboat. Okay, I just gotta move on, or I could talk about Gideon Nav for literally years, and that's just how it's gonna be. So hope you enjoy for however long you watch this channel, okay? Number 10, books that made you cry. Again, I'm gonna be brief. Gideon the Ninth, I finished listening to the audiobook at 1 in the morning. I was hysterically sobbing for the last like half hour of the audiobook, and then I cried for an additional 2 hours after. So if that like sets the scene, I'm gonna be brief with that one and put it down, because there are other books that have made me cry this year. I think specifically the one I want to talk about is The Death of Vivek OG by Akwaeke Emezi. I have read one other book by them, and it was their like YA fantasy pet, so it was very different. This book is an adult contemporary following the kind of life of Vivek OG as well as the people around them in their life, and how they got to the point of him dying and like what led to it as well as what followed. And that last 2 chapters punched me in the heart physically. I cried so hard. Oh my god. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I can't wait. I bought Freshwater on my Kindle, and I can't wait to read, what's it called? Dear Sentheron? It's their memoir that's coming out this year. Anyway, that came out this year already. I want to read that. I guess that's a new release I want to read too. Number 11 is books that made you happy. Obviously, I tend to read more cheerful, lighthearted books. I read a lot of romances. I've read like 30 something romances this year. I don't want to talk about it. Maybe it's like 20 something romance. It's been a lot. But the ones that I want to talk about specifically for this are Timekeeper by Tara Sim and Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. So I'll talk about Timekeeper first. This is a really, really sweet YA fantasy series. This is only the first book. I still need to read the second one and the third one. It's like a trilogy about I don't remember anyone's name, but it's about a young boy. I guess he's a teenager. He's like 18, and he's a timekeeper or like a clock mechanic. And this is a universe where the clocks both figuratively track time but also literally keep time on track, and if there's something wrong with a clock in a town, that town's time will skip ahead or skip an hour or be stuck. There's like maybe a relationship with like the clock spirit that's so sweet. I loved it so much. And then also there is an outward plot of like someone is destroying clock towers around the country, and the main character's trying to figure out why, and it's just, it was so sweet. I think I gave it 4 stars. Very enjoyable. It was just like, I have trouble with YA fantasy from like the get-go. Like I'll hear their descriptions or see their covers and be very like, it's so generic. This one, I think, it's not like an outstanding, sensational, exceptional, never been done before in terms of like themes or writing style, or like, it's not like, but it was so good. I think it's above average in like a lot of ways. I think it was very well done, and I just can't wait to read the rest of it because I think it expands both the world and characters in the next one. So I'm talking too much. I'll stop now. But the other one that I want to talk about is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is a sci-fi romance, a queer romance. I guess both of these are gay romances. Very love that for me. But this one is about, again, don't remember their names. It's about there's a space empire, and one of the princes dies and was married to the like ambassador representative from another planet, and to keep that kind of treaty and relationship good and connected. The queen or emperor decides that this other prince nephew or something of hers will marry the widower, who is the ambassador. And so this book is very much about, like, was the other guy, like, murdered? Did someone kill him? And if they did, why? But it's also very much about the relationship between these two characters, not understanding what they want from each other, because the, like, false assumptions made at the beginning of the relationship. Specifically, one of the characters was previously in an extremely abusive relationship and is now trying to figure out how to live beyond that. So if depictions of domestic abuse can be, like, somewhat triggering to you, I do want you to know that there is, you know, a warning for some content. There's, I think, maybe 2 specific scenes where you actually see it described instead of it just being kind of implied. Other than that, this book, the connection between those 2 characters, I thought they had a really, really good chemistry, which does not always happen in romances. It does not always happen. And you'd think it would, but it doesn't. But they had a really good chemistry. I gave it 4 stars. I would have given it higher, except for I literally didn't care about the sci-fi plot at all. It was, like, very, like, raising the stakes, galactic consequences, and every time a new character, like, introduced new bad things that would happen if bad things happened, I was just like, I don't understand what's happening and I don't care. But this book made me so happy. This is one of the few audiobooks I've listened to where I actually went back and re-listened to my favorite chapters afterwards. Like, I usually, once I'm done an audiobook, I'm like, okay, and return it right away. This book I kept from the library for maybe, like, an extra day or 2, and I, like, re-listened to my favorite chapters, like, several times. So I really adored it. But it's not enough to actually buy a physical copy because there's so much science stuff that I just don't care about. Like, I don't need that in my life. I'll just get it from the library again if I want to reread those parts. Up next is the most beautiful book that you've acquired this year, and I've gotten a lot of really pretty books, and I don't actually know if I bought this one last year or this year, but I was looking through my shelves and I saw this and I was like, I think that might be it, and that is going to be Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. I just think this is gorgeous. This is the type of cover that I think I was possibly genetically engineered to like. You know what I mean? Like, this book, every like molecule of this was specifically created to appeal to me, I think. And the reason that I was even, like, I was interested in the story, it sounds very interesting. It's kind of like a fairy tale-esque thing where, like, they're at an inn and someone bursts through the door holding a passed out child, and they're trying to, like, solve a mystery, and it's, like, all takes place in one night and very fairy tale inspired. But also the cover is phenomenal, and I can't wait to read it. I haven't read it yet. I haven't been reading a lot of stuff, so that's cool. Speaking of which, the last question is, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? And there's so many. There's so many. This is a new rule that I'm making for myself. I can't buy more books, including ebooks, even if they're on sale, until I read 10 books that I own. And this isn't just, like, one-time thing, but I think going forward that will be, like, a good way to keep things, like, a handle on things. So a lot of books I need to read, but if I want to be specific, then I think I want to say this year I would like to focus on sequels. I said earlier I have only read the one, like, actual true sequel. I haven't read any other actual true sequels this year, but 2 that I own, Starsight. I've had this for years. I think I bought this in 2019 or maybe in 2020. Either way, I bought this, like, right when it came out. Haven't read it yet, so that's great. And then Hollowpox, also bought this, like, right when it came out. Haven't read it. I kind of want to reread these first, though, so I don't know when I'll get to that, but I would like to read sequels. That is going to be the end of this mid-year book tag. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully I will be, like, back, mayhaps. We'll see how that goes, and I will see you guys soon. Let me know in the comments what your favorite book that you've read so far this year is, and if you know of any upcoming or new releases you think I'd like, because I'm kind of, like, getting into tracking that stuff. I don't know. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!